Hello, I'm Casey Aiken, and this is 21 This Week. Coming up next, Montgomery County Council selects a new council president and vice president. What changes can we expect? How will Montgomery County address Trump administration deportation plans? And what's next for Congressman Jamie Raskin? Our panel of insiders will give you the story behind the story. We're joined by the vice chairman of the Montgomery County Republican Central Committee, Stacey Sauter, and former House of Delegate member, attorney Maricé Morales. Stay tuned for these stories and more on the next 21 This Week. Each December, the Montgomery County Council selects a new council president and vice president for a one-year term. Generally, the sitting vice president is elevated to the role of president of the council, and a new vice president is selected, but not always. This year, the normal process was followed. An incumbent council vice president, Kate Stewart, was selected as the president. An active council member, Will Jawando, was installed as the vice president. Maricé, the council president has the ability to establish the agenda for the council, schedule bills, and Ms. Stewart stated, this council understands that we are bigger than one person alone. We are stronger when we put our heads together, roll up our sleeves, and works to support the common good. What can we expect for the upcoming year?
Well, I want to congratulate Kate. I think we have a wonderful future with her leadership. She, as a former mayor of Tacoma Park, I think the media has kind of pigeonholed her as a very just super liberal and progressive, but they forget that as an administrator of a city, she has had to deal with the business community and she's practical. So I think that Kate's going to be a great council president. And with Will, this is his second term. I think I don't think he plays as nicely in the sandbox. So it's nice to see him finally elevated after 2 terms. It's kind of unusual, but I think they're ready to face some of the attacks on the county coming from the Trump administration coming up 2025.
Well, I think I still think that the council is kind of adjusting to the 11-member council in some parts.
Sure.
And working out some of the relationships that are necessary. Stacey, as Maricé mentioned, the new council vice president, Will Jawando, is one of the most progressive members of the council. And will this leadership role impact the direction of the council, or is it really being run by the president of the council this year?
Well, perhaps, and it certainly won't be for lack of trying on Jawando's part. I think he and Ms. Stewart will do everything possible to enact their extreme progressive agendas. But they need to keep in mind that 2/3 of the citizens here voiced their deep frustration with the direction of the county by voting to term limit Mark Elrich and all county executives going forward. I heard from a Democrat insider that Jawando wants to elevate his national profile and be like the next Al Sharpton. And right now, to Maricé's point, he's in the sandbox, he's co-ruling it, and he's very effective at emotional appeals, such as that we discussed this previously, the Period Equity Act he promoted, trying to make the case that all Montgomery County businesses should be providing free menstrual products because they were too expensive for the working classes here. He can easily get people worked up and believing that they're being discriminated against for a variety of reasons, whether they're rational or not. So I expect to see a lot of these types of initiatives being rolled out from him. But again, a word of caution, there were a pretty equal number of independents, Democrats, and Republicans who supported the term limit measure. And if he and the council aren't careful, they might find their terms limited by voters in the next election.
Yeah, I find Mr. Jawando to be an interesting council member and person. I don't know him at all. I've never met him. Just from afar, he reminds me more of Tom Perez, who was who rose to prominence as a Montgomery County Council member, and then to other higher offices, including being chairman of the Democratic National Committee. So I believe he was secretary of
Department of Labor.
Department of Labor. Thank you. I couldn't remember if it was HUD or Labor. So Will kind of reminds me of Tom. Nothing wrong with wanting to have aspirations. I hope it's not a talk show host like Reverend Sharpton, but we'll see. And what's interesting, Maricé, is the cast between being business friendly and being a non-growther. What are we the council is seeing a lot of pressure on affordable housing and other things. I mean, are they going to strike a balance, and is Kate capable of doing that?
Absolutely. I think you've seen it with Friedson being the former president, and so you saw the collaboration between Kate. I keep saying Kate because she's a friend of mine, but Councilwoman Stewart, and I think that she reflects the vision of the just wanting growth in the county, because I mean you can have affordable housing and development at the same time. And we want to be a county that welcomes professionals, young families to come in and settle down and raise our county revenue. So I think it is going to be a good balance.
So, Stacey, any other thoughts that you might have about the makeup of the council and the direction that this council is going to go in for the next remaining year?
I think it's frightening. It's yet to be seen, but I think we need to buckle up. It's going to be a bumpy ride.
Well, the council has been accused in the past of not being transparent, and we saw that when we had the decision on the Montgomery or Maryland National Capital Park and Planning, where they made some radical changes in the makeup of the commission. They fired everybody. So I hope we're going to see more transparency from this council and greater community involvement, particularly from the business community. Maricé, you have a final thought or not?
I think we're good to.
All right,
Yeah.
let's go on to our next topic. And this is one of the more interesting things that we have to deal with. The election of Donald Trump as president, and jurisdictions like Montgomery County have talked a lot about the anticipated changes in the immigration laws with respect to what the Trump administration is planning on doing. The county council recently proposed a bill called the Uplifting Victim and Immigration Safety Act, and it purports to provide legal status to victims of certain violent crimes who have suffered physical or mental abuse and previously assisted or are helping law enforcement. It's modeled after the immigration U visa bill or law, I guess it is. But it confused me when I first saw this, because I don't think a county council can provide immigration status to someone, even if they want to give notice to this law. So Maricé, as an immigration lawyer, I love having you on because you can provide some insight on this and some expertise on this. One thing that I found interesting was, like a good lawyer, I went and looked at the U visa and what are the requirements for a U visa. And I was confused by the term non-immigrant status and what that meant and how that's applied.
Sure. Well, first, you hit the nail on the head on why was this a county bill. This was actually it's a replica of a state bill that I introduced 10 years ago and is now a state law. So really all that the county does is just reinforce the relationship that we have with law enforcement, to have law enforcement certify, which is a part of the qualification for the applicant to qualify for a U visa. So it really is just reinforcing something that we already had, a state law. And that's one of the reasons why, and this is going to be a surprise to you, that the pro-immigrant organization, CASA, did not support me in my reelection, because I tell them, why are you wasting taxpayers' money on laws that are already state law, right? That's number one. Number two, the non-immigrant just means that it's not an automatic to a green card. So there's immigrant visas and there's non-immigrant visas. So when it's a non-immigrant visa, it's not an automatic to then become a green card holder. You have to qualify. There's going to be additional qualifications before you're able to adjust directly to being a green card holder or legal permanent resident.
Yeah, but again, the county can't grant a visa to
Correct,
people.
correct. That's what I'm saying. That this bill does nothing to immigration law. Nothing. It just reinforces. It's like, just saying with a stronger voice, we have an MOU with Montgomery County Police Department. That's all that it does.
Okay. So Stacey, neighboring Frederick County, Mayor Michael O'Connor has come under increasing criticism for his plan to establish taxpayer-funded legal advocacy fund to defend immigrants who may be, in his term, harmed by policies from the new Trump administration. We've also seen recently a federal court in the, I think it was the Ninth Circuit, who ruled that the federal government has a constitutional right to deport illegal aliens. This seems to be a clash between federalism and state law or county law. What's going to happen here, do you think?
And that's clearly true between the federal and the state law. Casey, these are highly progressive leaders who are trying their level best to solve a political Rubik's Cube to protect undocumented immigrants. But the federal government is a higher authority in this matter. So no matter how hard they try, there will always be a red square in the blue side of the cube. They need to keep in mind that first and foremost, in terms of deportation, the new administration intends to go after the serious criminal element first. And so if folks like Michael O'Connor in Frederick and the mayor of Denver, Mike Johnson, and Brandon Johnson in Chicago go on the defensive, particularly with taxpayer funds, they might soon find themselves out of a job, especially if a heinous crime is committed in their respective jurisdictions by an undocumented immigrant and they've erected a deportation barrier. And I can't imagine the Trump administration not making a full-throated effort to go after them. It's what voters asked for very loudly and clearly in this past election.
Casey,
Mark, doesn't Montgomery County also have a similar funding mechanism?
No. So number one, I actually agree with everything that Stacey just said. This is the reason why there's so much misunderstanding. And the key element missing from this conversation is the deportation of criminal illegal aliens, not just any illegal aliens. So in other words, I agree with the Ninth Circuit. The federal court does have the right to deport individuals who have gone through the due process of being found criminal guilty of some kind of crime. That's not the same as just, having a raid and just massively grabbing people that have not committed crimes. And the reason why there's a difference is because there's administrative law and criminal law and immigration. So just crossing the border is not regulated under criminal law. It's regulated under administrative law. Until they have committed any other crime, then that's when the federal government absolutely, once they have been convicted, et cetera. And so with what we're talking about and what Stacey's talking about, that is less than 2% of undocumented immigrants. That's the problem here.
So I just want to ask a question to clarify.
Sure.
When a migrant crosses into the United States, they need to file for asylum in order to be classified or admitted properly into the United States. It's not someone who just crosses the border through Eagle Pass or some break in the laws that have gone through the process of being registered by ICE. Is that correct?
That's correct. So you come into the country and you submit yourself to inspection. And so then you ask for some kind of relief. It could be most people don't know anything beyond asylum, but they may not have a case for asylum, but they may have something else for withholding of removal, cancellation of removal, depending on just humanitarian factors. But that act in itself is not criminal. Now, if you're deported and you don't leave, that is criminal. So absolutely, does the federal government have the right to deport people that have already been deported? Absolutely, they do. And even immigration experts go on TV talking about this, and they have it wrong. I mean, I am a lover of the Constitution. I actually went to law school. This is what my thesis paper was how the Constitution protects or doesn't protect people of certain status, U.S. citizens versus green card holders versus undocumented folks versus people that have already been deported but never left. There are different classes of people, and the Constitution may or may not protect everybody the same.
Any final thoughts, Stacey?
It's going to be very interesting. And again, just like I said in the last segment, buckle up. It's going to be a bumpy ride.
Well, I think, I think we could all, given the headlines, given everything that's transpired since November 5th, I think we can all agree on that. When we come back from this short break, local Congressman Jamie Raskin wants to lead the opposition to the Trump administration. Stay tuned.
Jordan knows he shouldn't eat this entire bowl of nachos, but tonight he's earned that right because a few hours ago in the middle of happy hour, he recognized a sign, not from the gods or a bolt of lightning, but from a double heart, a kissy face, and a fourth ha in ha ha ha. That's when Jordan knew he was buzzed. So when it was time to go, he got a ride home instead of driving. Be a legend like Jordan. Recognize your buzzed warning signs and get a ride home. Buzz driving is drunk driving.
When I first saw Turtle, my heart was full. Now I'm anything but lonely.
We had this deep connection, this heart connection.
He just wants to be close to you and part of your life.
Every day with Turtle is a perfect day.
When I'm holding her, it makes me feel calmer.
I think everything he does shows how much he loves us.
When we adopt a shelter pet,
We discover
they're a little bit of a lot of things,
But they're all pure love.
love.
And welcome back. Given his active role as impeachment manager for the second Senate impeachment trial of Donald Trump during President Trump's first term, it comes as no surprise that Congressman Jamie Raskin has vowed to lead the opposition to the incoming Trump administration. Stacey, President Trump in November won overwhelmingly the presidential election after the American public was repeatedly told that he was a threat to democracy. So aren't the complaints being raised by Congressman Raskin mere political posturing?
Casey, his entire political career has been built on political theater. So why is this posturing any different? He's like Will Jawando in this regard, in that he's very effective at making emotional appeals. Listen, having said that, I read his book, Unthinkable, and it was a searing and heartrending account over the loss of his beloved son, Tommy, who was one of his best friends, and it was due to mental illness and ultimately suicide, just days leading up to the melee on Capitol Hill on January 6th. And while some folks tried to discourage Raskin from attending the certification of the election results, he really felt compelled to be there, and in part to honor Tommy's memory. So he brought his daughter and son-in-law along, who ultimately had to hide for hours in fear of their lives. So Raskin and his family experienced dramatic trauma in a very short period of time. And it seemed to me, and I'm certainly no psychologist, but he transferred a lot of his angst onto Donald Trump and made him the boogeyman in his life. And what we've witnessed in this last election is that the country has no tolerance for lawfare and over-the-top these political charges, making legal cases out of them, in some cases just artificial persecutions, particularly for Donald Trump. So on a final note, the National Democratic Party is really floundering for solid leadership right now, and I assume Raskin is looking to fill that void by being the bedeviler in chief of Donald Trump and other Republicans. I believe he, like other Democrats right now, need to tread very carefully.
So, Maricé, Mr. Raskin claims that we are in the fight for our lives, which seems to be a continuation of the theme that Donald Trump is a threat to democracy. But it doesn't seem like the voting public agreed with him. So what are we to expect during the next couple of years in Congress for him?
I think Jamie is a national treasure. I couldn't disagree more with what Stacey how she described his career. This is a constitutional law professor, attorney, an academic, scholar. If his career, his success were a result of theatrics, he would have then played on the fact that he's a cancer survivor, and he did not. I think it's great that you read his book on Tommy's life. It is definitely a touching book, but that's not what his career has been built on. If anything, and I hear you, Casey, in terms of the popular vote. But if you look at the jurisdiction that Jamie actually represents, those of us that have followed his career from the State House, this is an individual who never sold out to leadership, because of his, because his ingrained respect and love for the constitutionality of things. And I think it's wonderful to see him then now using that knowledge in favor and benefit of the American people. I think we would be very well served as having him top
I don't mean to interrupt
judiciary.
Yeah. During the first Trump administration, the fight between the political battles that were waged against President Trump were certainly divisive for the country and unproductive. And ultimately, many of those political battles were found to be unwarranted. So are we going to see more of those political battles, or are we going to see an effort to help the country as a whole?
I think we're going to see an effort to help the country as a whole, because he's a policy wonk, because he understands how how the administration can push bills down the legislature's throat. We know that Jamie will be the correct protector in terms of how the legislative process works. So if anything, if there is something that would not benefit the American people, that goes to the Judiciary Committee, which is going to be a lot of what Mr. Trump's agenda is about, coming in with Project 2025, talking about just the dissolution of so many legal institutions in our country, and those that are the foundation of our democracy. I couldn't think of a better person than Congressman Jamie Raskin to lead that battle.
Okay. Stacey, any final thoughts?
Yeah, I should add that there's a distinction here. Jamie is a very smart man, Maricé. I agree with you, and his credentials are unquestionable. But there are two separate things. You can have those credentials and still be a grandstander and take advantage of being in the limelight. And he has done that quite, effectively in some ways, but in other ways he hasn't. They lost the impeachment effort, the second one, well, then the first one too. So my thought is that if he's in that position, he may be looking for every single opportunity possible that, to Casey's point, is unwarranted. When I say any opportunity possible to try to persecute, prosecute, and it's unwarranted. And the American public has really expressed a distaste for this. And this is why I've expressed in every single episode, these politicians, these Democrat politicians, I think need to pay very careful attention to the fact that the American public could not digest that, and they will not going forward.
Well, thank you all. Thank you both. What a great conversation today. I appreciate it. Stay tuned for parting shots when we come back from the short break.
Hey world, I have a quick message. It's about safe driving. All right, let's go. Anytime you're driving, have the seatbelt buckled tight, both hands on the wheel and your phone out of sight. When not in your hand trying to text somebody back, because if you do, your car might get smacked. The moral of the story, just put your phone down. The people on the road will stay safe and sound. Put your phone down, put your phone down. People on the road will stay safe and sound. Yeah.
Jordan knows he shouldn't eat this entire bowl of nachos, but tonight he's earned that right, because a few hours ago in the middle of happy hour, he recognized a sign. Not from the gods or a bolt of lightning, but from a double heart, a kissy face, and a fourth ha in ha ha ha. That's when Jordan knew he was buzzed. So when it was time to go, he got a ride home instead of driving. Be a legend like Jordan. Recognize your buzzed warning signs and get a ride home. Buzz driving is drunk driving.
Welcome back. Now with parting shots, Stacey Sauter.
Casey, I would like to thank the hundreds and hundreds of volunteers that came out in this past election to help the Republican Party and to help us to get 2T passed. We were unfortunate in that we didn't win CD6. We had great hope there, and that we lost the race with Larry Hogan and Angela also Brooks. But what we saw, this turnout was really tremendous, and we want to build on that. And so if there are folks out there that are watching and that are interested in getting involved in the Republican Party, please go to www.mcgop.com. We would welcome your participation.
Thanks, Stacey. Maricé Morales, your parting shot.
Just wishing everybody a happy holiday season. Bundle up, take your RSV vaccines because it is getting nippy out there. And I guess I'll be seeing you guys next year, 2025.
Well, we are definitely in the holiday season, and Christmas is in 3 short weeks. And I want to remind the audience that tomorrow is the anniversary of Pearl Harbor. I've lost track on the number of it, but I just think that, it's such an important date in our history that we should be cognizant of the actions at Pearl Harbor. I want to thank you both for being here. I want to thank the audience for tuning in each and every week to Montgomery County's hardest hitting political talk show. For 21 this week, I'm Casey Aiken.